So I want to thank everybody for watching my video about the stitch I did about why apps are needed for coupons and stuff. And then this comment came up, which is a very excellent comment. I'm going to preface this by saying that I cannot provide anybody really any certainty of blocking anything. Even with an IT background, I have realized that it is going to be next to impossible to do something like use the internet and block everything, and I'll explain why. To first, what I use, and this may cause some people to throw their hands up because they're going to say it's not secure enough, but for a browser, I use Firefox. I do use Chrome, which I'm going to advise that don't use Chrome unless you're doing it and you know what you're doing. I use Chrome for my gaming channel that I do because the only thing that goes in there is the gaming channel, and that's isolated. Chrome is owned by Google, or Alphabet, who owns Google, if you didn't know that. They also own YouTube and various other sites, including fitness trackers. You can look this up. So you're feeding your fitness data to Google, and then they sell that data. That's another one. But anyway, I don't use Chrome as a main browser because they notoriously collect data. I use Firefox. Now, some people are going to say that's not secure enough. For me, it is, and it keeps the user experience usable, because even though I have a background in IT, I do not like having to be so tedious with stuff. Is it still somewhat insecure? Yes. Is it better than a lot of the alternatives for main browsers people know? Absolutely. In my opinion. You can disagree with me and provide examples why, and I'd be glad to look into it, but I'm pretty sure I know most of the problems there. I also use an extension within Firefox called Ghostery. It has paid versions. I do not pay for it. And I'm also going to say this now. This video is not sponsored by anybody. It's at all. There's no sponsored tag in my videos, so this is not sponsored. I use Ghostery. Ghostery can be annoying for some users because in the bottom right-hand corner, it shows a purple dialog when you load pages that shows you how many trackers are active, and you can choose to block and trust sites. By default, I have Ghostery block everything, and then I have to whitelist sites. The downside to that is that Ghostery makes the internet fairly unusable when you first use it because it's going to block a lot of stuff. And you're going to notice that a lot of sites do not want you blocking the marketing. A problem with this is that if you don't pay for Google Premium and you use an ad blocker, the videos will no longer load anymore. They're starting to do that. And a lot of sites are. So in the future, I'm going to have to look at other things I can do to block out ads that I don't want because they're going to start blocking things like Ghostery. For now, it does work. I've used it a bit, and I can see every tracker that's tracking what I'm doing. Trackers collect data and track your movement on the web. That's a short explanation, really rudimentary. Cookies store temporary data about your login to the site and a few other details, and those cookies can be stored. The site can use them, and then there's analytic data, which is tracked. I worked for an automotive dealership in IT. We had an advertising department, and they had trackers that could determine where you were looking at the screen. And I know that sounds like they're using your eyeballs. They're not. That's not what it meant. Based on mouse movement and where you clicked, they collected all that data to market to you. It's how they set up their websites. This is a thing a lot of sites do. They want to know where you're clicking, why you're clicking there, and they're going to use that to better build the site to be more annoying to you, if you will, and to market to you. As far as phones, I use an Android phone because it's what I can afford, and I hate Apple. Apple is awful. You should not be using Apple. They love to collect data, and Apple will also turn over your text records and phone records without telling you to law enforcement if they're subpoenaed or believe it needs to be done. Don't think they won't, because at one point they protected someone by not unlocking their phone. That was a one-off. Android is not much better. Again, if you don't know, Android is owned by Google, who's owned by Alphabet. I'm starting to sound like the clothing company guy. So with Android, it is a little more difficult. Now, if you have the tech savvy, and this is the problem with all this, if you have the tech savvy, you can modify your phone with software so that you can have a privatized version of Android put on there. Android itself is an open source operating system for phones, but Google puts out their own version of it, and it's loaded with problems. There are a number of things you can do to your phone stock to block a lot of things out, but it is extremely difficult. And so here's the overarching problem. The issue here is that we need to get Congress to do something to help our privacy, because all the things that I'm talking about take technical savvy, and the average American does not have that. They don't understand any of this. And when you try to explain it, you get a couple of responses. Somebody in the comments said I'm starting to sound like one of those flip phone weirdos. And I'm not. I don't think I was in that video. This is real stuff happening. Again, Facebook is a good example where Mark Zuckerberg got put for a congressional hearing because of privacy concerns, and the people in Congress had no idea what was going on. So we've got to make those changes. But telling someone to use a highly secure browser that eliminates all of the features of the internet is already going to make a product that they don't understand even more difficult to use. Same with phones. And I know there's some people who are extreme. I've watched people who are extremists on this. They use a phone that is so stripped down, all it does is text messaging, and the only other thing it does beyond that is phone calls. And I enjoy smartphones. I like them. I think I should be able to enjoy those features. But we're getting into that territory where our country's getting very intrusive, except it's not government, it's businesses. We don't regulate businesses enough on this privacy. So you should be doing something to clear cookies out when you can. Firefox, most browsers, modern browsers, have an option to empty those out, but I think Firefox does a better job of not putting that data out. Also, you can use private browsing. A quick touch on that, because I don't want to extend this too far. If you guys have more questions over stuff, feel free to ask in the comments. But you can use private browsing in Firefox. I don't recommend it in Chrome because it's kind of useless, but private browsing basically keeps your data away from sites. Some sites, it's not perfect, and it makes a containerized version of the browser. All of your bookmarks, your stuff like that is still there, but the data is kept private from some sites. And it is very limited. So use that for me, I use it if I'm trying to go to some place that I don't want touching my main browser data. But that's about as far as that goes. Sorry, guys. That's about as far as that goes. Again, you guys have any questions, leave them in the comments. Great comment, and appreciate it. Thank you, guys.